Alright lads, we're back again. UFC 326, Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. We're back on a numbered card, we're back on top. I'm not going to waste too much time. Last week wasn't great for the lock, it was kind of shit to be honest. Didn't go under 1.5, went to decision. Look, it happens. I'm not going to waste too much time. I am just going to get down to the lock of the week, and I'm not going
fighting out of Sacramento, California, Cody No Love Garbrandt.
This week's lock of the week is going to be Cody Garbrandt. No Love. No Love is fighting Zhao Long. Now, personally speaking, in my honest opinion here, I think Cody might have the oddest matchmaking of really any fighter inside the UFC at the current moment. If we go to look at what he was doing even a year ago, he was against Davison Figueiredo, and again, yes, Cody is not the same fighter. Cody is a bit slower than he was, his pace is kind of gone, his agility, his speed is gone in the striking, and he has a bit more of a glass chin. But I do believe that Cody Garbrandt has made the better skills of, the way it's gone. If you think about it, 2 years ago around this time, he was fighting basically for a top 15 spot against Davison Figueiredo, and then he fights Ronnie Barcelos. And look, no disrespect to Long Zhao, however you say his name, but he has beaten absolutely no one inside the UFC. He's won a few in the road to UFC, all by decision. But personally speaking, to me, the road to the UFC is nowhere near good. It's not a good sort of level to really look at it. The only person he's beaten is Quang Lee, who again is a fast and dynamic striker but has a very, very weak chin, and he cracked him as well. It was a really, really back and forth thing. In both decisions he's been dominated. Being realistic, he just hasn't really looked that good. He's a very, very explosive Chinese fighter, but he puts a lot into just being explosive to look for haymakers and even takedowns. He over chases. It's one of these ones where you can see Cody Garbrandt being able to wear him down. Again, if Cody Garbrandt does rock someone, the natural instinct is still there. He's like a shark in the water. He's still a very, very, very likely person to finish this fight. I do believe a decision comes. I think Cody has gotten a lot better arrests than, as you can see in the Trevin Giles win. If we go back to it, the Trevin Jones win. Like, he has a really, really weird career, but the Trevin Jones and the Brian Keller, they're two performances I would look at for this. Again, it's hard to really judge like Davison Figueiredo and Ronnie Barcelos, because Ronnie Barcelos was on that massive rise. It was a clearly way better wrestler than Cody. I just think that the odds in this one are weird, because I just don't think that Long Zhao is that good. He's just not. I have no real idea who or what the matchmaking is to give him Cody Garbrandt. It doesn't really make much sense to me. If you go look at the matchup between the two of them, it's 5 foot 8 versus 5 foot 8. It's a 5 inch reach advantage for Zhao Long. He does have the longer time, obviously, but Cody's more the fast finisher, so that makes sense. Cody lands a 2.8 clip, he lands a 5.2. They both have a striking actually of 39 and 46. It's the takedowns is where I look for, because again, there's a 0.9 takedown to 0.6, 27% actually to 25 to Cody, and then 83 to 79. Personally speaking, to me, I think Cody has been a bit undone by a lot of these stats, considering he's fought the way higher talent. I would say if you put this more, it's probably about 60% Cody's going to be able to get a takedown. I think he controls this pretty easily. I think at 30-27, Cody Garbrandt, I'm going to go with it. And we will move down into the favourites. We are going to move into the favourites here, and yeah, we'll start with Max Holloway. I suppose he's just probably the easiest person to start with, being honest. Yeah, look, I love Charles, I really do, and I love Do Bronx, but I do think that this is just going to be the same as the Ilya fight. I do think that he'll probably come in here not cocky, but maybe just expecting his chin to hold up a little bit more than it will. I don't think Max will finish him quickly. I think this could go maybe 4 or 5, maybe into the 4th, 5th round. Then Max will probably get to finish, something along those lines. I do think it'll be competitive for maybe about 3 rounds, but I think Max will take it overall. I don't really think there's going to be a lot in it. It's going to be like the Poirier fights. Realistically, Max just kind of dominates most of the fight because he looks really, really good at 155. And yeah, look, I'm not going to really talk too much about it. I think it's kind of not really worth it. Next we move into 1 to 2 at Robocop. Now Robocop is fighting Bruno Ferreira. Now these are just two Brazilian lads who are not the greatest fighters, being realistic. If you put them on their backs, they're both okay to sit there. There's never really much of a submission game from either. Bruno Ferreira probably has the better submission game, but if we're going with raw power and who has it on the feet, I go with Gregor Rodriguez. I don't really see this getting out of probably past round 2. I can see with Gregor Rodriguez being able to land something big and being able to knock out Bruno Ferreira. So we will move into Sam Daji, who's 2-5 versus Jesus Aguilar. Now, personally speaking, I don't actually think Samar Danji's that good, but I just think Jesus Aguilar's realistically not on the same level as him. I do think that this will be a bit of a slog. This will just be probably a 29-28 pretty close decision. I'll go with Sam Dramanji and Michael Johnson. I was going to lock Michael Johnson before all the stuff happened with Anthony Hernandez, but personally speaking, I do think Johnson comes in here and I think he actually finishes this fight. I think round 1 or 2 Michael Johnson takes this at 5-6. I think he knocks out Drew Dober. I think Drew Dober's chin has looked quite weak over a lot of fights over this time period. I think Michael Johnson comes in here and starches him, to be honest, in round 1 or 2. We'll move down to the underdogs. This is where we'll talk a tiny little bit more into most of these. But Cody Durden, he is fighting Tunam Dubal, or Najem Tunam Dubal, the Art of Knockout. Again, another fighter that's come off the road to the UFC. And as I just said in the lock, I don't think the road to the UFC is exactly a very high level of competition, because it really, realistically isn't. Carlos Hernandez, the decision on the split, you could argue a little bit of it, but I did think Carlos Hernandez won that fight, and then he finishes Terence Sertan over on the road to the UFC again and gets back into the UFC. Honestly speaking, I'm not sure. I don't think he's someone who does enough. He has a long reach advantage. I do know that. He's someone who has like he has a 5-inch reach advantage, is 671 to 67. Of course, Cody Durden's on a 3-fight losing streak, but I do want to dive a little bit into his losing streak, considering it's Trigger Gobayev, Bruno Silva, Josh Fan, and Alan Sicamento. Basically, that's 3 fighters that have been in and out of the top 15, and you're giving them to them Dumbale. Like, I don't think that Durden's going to be very dangerous in this fight. I do think that this is going to be a bit of a wrestling fest, kind of a bit of a slog. 29-28, Cody Durden. I don't think there's going to be any big strikes landed. I think Durden is probably, obviously, the more experienced UFC fighter between the two of them. Their average fight times are 9 minutes 24 seconds to 8 minutes and 29 seconds. So, of course, there's not too many decisions. Durden lands at a 3.6 clip to 3.1 for Debele, 44% to 39. And, of course, Durden's taken more strikes. And then, there is a lot of takedowns by them, but it's more, if I see someone shoot for a takedown in this fight, Durden will 100% get it, and I think he'll be able to stop and Dembele a lot easier, Dembele, whatever the fuck his name is, a lot easier than a lot of fighters here. Next, we move into Rob Font. Now, Rob Font is fighting Rose Rosas Jr., and I have had the question of will he be able to stop the takedowns. Honestly, I think Rose Rosas Jr. might gas himself out from going for too many takedowns, to be honest. Now, this is going a bit in the underdogs, because I'm a bit iffy on this myself. I will throw it in because, again, Rob Font won the lock at 4-1, so I won't rule him out. He definitely will have the better striking. He is a bit slower on the feet, so he might have to try and slow down Rhodes Rojas more than anything else. It's one of those things where does Rhodes Rojas gas tank hold up? I don't think so. I think Rob Font takes this on decision, 29-28. And we'll move into the last fighter on this, which is RDR. Renaud the Ritter. Now look, Renaud the Ritter is an interesting one to me, because if you look at this, since he got into the UFC, the man has taken basically all his fights in the space of 1 year. He came in November 9th, his last fight was in, October 18th. He basically took every single fight within a year, and you think about it, that's taken out Jeremiah Shaw, Kevin Holland, Bo Nickel, Whitaker. And yes, he quit against Brendan Allen, but I do believe that this was more that he was gassed, he was exhausted from taking so many fights. He clearly hurt his rib. If you give him a full camp, you give him the rest here, even though I do think Kai Bahalio, again, I've said it, I always thought he's the best from the fighting nerds, but the fight against Ivanov just proved that there's no killer instinct. He's too slow, he's just too in his head of his own game plan. He doesn't really get into a fight. The corner were trying to get him to get into the fight. It's come on, get into the fight. And it's just not working. If we look at it by a realistic stance, Kai Bahalio also hasn't really beaten anyone. Jerry Cannonier's fine, but Paul Craig, Abustamad Ahmedov, Michael Ochechek, none of these are exactly crazy to get you anywhere near like 8th in the division. You have to look at it. He beat Paul Craig when he was ranked 21st and beat Jared Cannonier, who was ranked 4th. He's gone up, and that's fine. Just the Nemaroff fight has just made me really wonder what's going on. Maybe he's not training with top guys. I don't know, but it's just, there was no urgency in these fights. His corner was yelling at him to get into it, and nothing came from it. It was more just, yeah, Nemaroff's already won this, you know. And I think RDR is another person who can really use the knees, the way they done against Whitaker. If he draws the knees down the middle, I think that he could have Kai in a very, very hurt spot. Kai Bahalio definitely would probably struggle with these knees. I would say the grappling aspects for both of them, I think RDR probably has a bit of a grappling aspect here. The striking is probably Bahalio's, but I do think they're very, very even on the feet. I do think that RDR takes this on decision. I will go with 29-28 for RDR. And yeah, I guess that's going to be it. I can't show the ACA, but it does pay back 42, just to say these. I just can't show it. So anyways, if you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next one. Peace.